Hello and welcome to our midweek conversation at First Baptist Sweetwater, where we strive to be the first responders of God's love. My name's Jerry Hendricks. I'm here with T. Hamilton, and we're glad to have this opportunity to come visit with you this week through this podcast.
Most definitely.
It is, okay, so I'm wearing a North Carolina shirt today.
Yes.
People ask me, are you a North Carolina fan? I go, I like North Carolina, but I bought the shirt in their bookstore when I went to a game in 2020.
And it's a cool shirt.
Yeah, it is a cool shirt.
Like, I mean, it's got a cool logo on it.
It's one of my favorites. But I was thinking this morning as I was driving in that the best thing that happened in 2020 for me was we took our basketball trip of a lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
Before all this COVID mess happened.
We did the same. It wasn't of a lifetime.
Yeah.
But we went to see the Spurs, so that was good. So is that a Tar Heel? Is that what a Tar Heel is? Isn't that what North Carolina is?
No, it's not a Tar. This isn't a Tar Heel. It's a Ram.
Oh, okay. But the North Carolina is the Tar Heels, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, y'all have to Google it. I really don't remember. I think I Google it every time that I think of it. But
someone out there, I bet James watches the podcast and he will tell us.
I bet you're wrong.
I probably am.
And then I don't know what the heck your shirt means.
Well, they can't see all of it. It's a baseball shirt.
Yeah. Nice addition.
We'll see if anybody knows what it is out there. Someone will know what it is.
Only basketball fans listen to this podcast.
No. No way. Mike Wilkes has talked about it several times.
Well,
and Mike listens to MLB radio.
There you go. What a fan.
So, he'll do it.
Of the show and of Major League Baseball.
Yes.
Mike Wilkes. That's a big shout out to Mike.
He gets those every once in a while. Like, he thought I was calling him out one time. But I don't remember what it was on. I think it was on Chili or something like that.
Nah, no way.
He said, "Did you just call me out?" I was like, "What are we talking about?" He told me. I was like, "Oh yeah, I probably did."
That's a guilty conscience speaking.
Then true.
Well, it's good to have this opportunity to visit with you folks during the middle of the week. We are finished a series on Sunday. Mm-hmm. We concluded. I kept trying to say we were concluding the series unfinished.
Instead of saying you finished the unfinished series?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a mouthful.
I don't know. I get myself into a lot of these confusing things to say, but anyways, we're going to move on from that one. It was a good Sunday, though. It was a good text to wrap that up. An interesting part from the life of Paul. One last piece. Right. Oh, and one other thing, as far as we've talked about adding a regular segment to our show, but our show is so short anyway. But we talked about having a segment that would just be corrections from the previous week.
Instead of what did we miss or what did we get wrong.
So I had a lot of texts that I was working on, and our schedule, our podcast rhythm schedule is off a bit.
Right.
And so I said that I would be talking from James, from the book of James, and we went on about that for a minute, but it was not from James at all.
It's all right. It worked out fine.
It was great. And it was fun looking at that passage, finding something in Acts that was also really speaking into the things that we've already been talking about. Because most often we were thinking about those Philippian passages.
Right.
The Philippian passage that I did the first week.
Or the Corinthians one, which I think was surprising, but it seemed to really resonate with people.
Yeah.
That one, the idea of faith, hope, and love and their place in our life. And then my favorite quote you did was a part about you could erase all the others and love would be the preeminent marker of a disciple.
Yeah. That has generated some discussion, even as recently as yesterday.
Right.
So we love it when people continue the conversation.
Right.
That's what we're trying to do here
through their own podcast. We've become a grandparent podcast, in my opinion.
Well, and your opinion matters, Steve.
I like it. Well, it does. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing
even
this.
A few people besides yourself.
No, probably not.
Okay. So we transitioned from that, and then doing some extra work today in our meeting, staff meeting, getting ready for the high point of the Easter season, Lenten season, and talking about the next 3 services.
Right.
That, of course, I'll be gone Sunday. I'll talk about that in a minute. But then the Palm Sunday service, the Tenebrae service, which is a Good Friday service, and then also our Resurrection Sunday service.
Right. And then after that, we'll even have a 4th one.
Yeah, we have added another layer to that I guess that experience is only a couple years old.
Right. and it was intentional why we did it. So
yeah, and it's we'll do communion on that
Right.
fourth Sunday, on
Right.
our third Sunday, but fourth service.
right,
So.
yeah, it's not obviously it's not my favorite week of the year, but it ranks up there.
Yeah,
I love because Lent is so long. I think you and I were talking one time on a podcast about, they always say it's 40 days, but it's really 40 days plus Sundays.
Right.
And no one ever says that. And so it's so long, and it's so focused and intense. But by the time you get to Resurrection Sunday, it's so just emotional and powerful because of what you've gone through and what you've experienced.
and we haven't talked about it this year. I think we do every year. That the intent, a part of the intent and the exercise of Lent is to not rush through
Right.
Something. And of course, we've had conversations recently with Ryan Strebeck. I shared a little bit that some insight that he had into this season, and he's really good and insightful to the process of letting it work in us, and we do all. I say all. I believe, I've come to believe that in Baptist life, we're real guilty of just rushing to Easter,
Right.
and not even considering these other Sundays,
We skip over everything in between, it seems.
right? And then what I think where you and I rest on this is, it probably the most challenging one for us is Palm Sunday. Explain why.
Explain why it's most challenging. Because, like, traditionally, churches do musicals and stuff like that, and that tells the whole story, but we really want to, like, talk about Jesus coming into Jerusalem as a king and, like, what that represented, what that looked like. But how do you display that and depict that in that moment of Palm Sunday? Because there's a transition that you need to happen to get to Good Friday and then eventually to Resurrection Sunday that you've got a whole week to do, but it's hard to do when you only meet on that Palm Sunday. Is that what we're going for?
Yeah, and I
Okay,
think
good.
because what we would prefer is maybe a 2-hour worship service.
Right.
No, what I said today is that if churches still did any kind of revivals,
Right.
that the week that you ought to do it would be Holy Week.
Right. And because you can build on it the whole... And there's a book I read a couple years ago that goes through every day and what has happened on those days. It's really cool to see the progression. But even now, we miss Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Some churches
Yeah.
have a Monday, Thursday service. Some have a Good Friday service. But we miss some of those. And then because we rush to Sunday, and mark my words, at some point at a Good Friday service or a Palm Sunday service, someone's going to say, it's Friday, but Sunday's coming. And we rush through Saturday. Saturday's important.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
think
painful.
You miss. You have to go through the cross.
Yeah, you have to
And-
experience the hopelessness to understand the hope.
Exactly, and to just relieve that pressure by knowing the end of the story
Right.
is I think to miss an opportunity to really understand faith.
Right.
Because I think last year was the year that I really leaned heavily into the conversation about being with the disciples through this process. Mm-hmm. And as the lectionary passages would develop each week, we would try to have an understanding that, because they weren't throwing their arms in the air on Friday going, Sunday's coming.
Yeah, they couldn't. They'd all deserted.
Yeah, and it was, and so, yeah, I think we do a disservice to ourself and others as leadership
Right.
for this when we just rush ahead to that moment. And, it does make, and I think I would guess, I don't do a sunrise service.
Right.
You talk about, y'all do something in your,
We have, yeah.
You and Stacy do in your tradition and experience, but man, it makes that more
Right.
that more meaningful.
It's just like reading a book. Just because you know the end, or you're watching a movie and you know what happens, you don't skip all the stuff in between just so you can say, "Oh, look, everything was fine."
Right.
You can't do that because there's something important about the in between.
Oh yeah,
and we just miss that when we end the deal with, oh well, the cross is there, but don't worry, Sunday's coming.
Yeah, and one of the things I've shared that I've been reading the N.T. Wright's book When God Became King, and I was talking to Ryan this morning that or maybe it was us that we were saying I always find myself gravitating toward his writings during the Lenten season. And to me, his writings are a little bit challenging. For me, they are. But with this one, I'm in the parts where he's talking about the significance of the cross. Mm-hmm. And he really elevates that, or he believes, I won't say he does, he believes, N.T. Wright believes that it's elevated in the Gospels. And the reason that it's elevated there is that it's the cross where Jesus became king.
Yeah.
And so anyways,
we've almost taken the power out of the cross by saying that the cross is just something cute you hang on the wall around your neck.
Right.
We forget about that there is an important reason the cross is there, and it's not just because it's empty now.
Yeah. And we, there's others that attach meaning to it, I think, better than maybe what our denomination has done, and kind of focusing on that. But there's just so much to absorb and to learn and experience, and we for sure want to have that opportunity every time during a Lenten season, but then also within that period, this long period of waiting, I think it's also a good experience for us.
This is a great time of year for like visual art. Like when you go back and look at and now the Lectionary Online has a segment on art. It shows how artists have depicted this Holy Week and this experience, and they can put so much in one picture that just really resonates and tells the story better than we can just read it. And it's a great time for that too.
Yeah. I mean, you should draw something.
Man.
Okay.
I'm hoping people stop listening.
Maybe next year. Maybe next year. We'll see who hung in all the way to the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But
probably your friend N.T. Wright.
Yeah, that's
still watching.
Correct. That is correct. Yes. Anyways, I'm still trying to. We were talking that I'm really intrigued by the way that he's developed the cross, but in particular where he's talking to his disciples, and they're trying to make arrangements to be on his right and left, or they're in this mindset of going with him. Mm-hmm. And he's telling them, you have no idea where this is going.
Yeah, because if they did, they wouldn't have.
Because the cross was ahead, and there was no way that they knew. And so, it's a really good next 3 weeks that we have to be able to worship together and contemplate this and see how God speaks to us.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And coming up this Sunday, we have a guest speaker, since I will be out of town. Matthew Broyles is, I keep introducing him intentionally so, as a friend of ours.
Me, Lisa?
Yeah, our staff. He was at children's camp with another church last year, First Baptist Abilene, where he serves on staff as college and young adult pastor. And actually came to Horizon Camps as a youth minister years ago.
Really?
Yeah, when he was at First Baptist Bayard as youth minister.
Okay.
I think he was a student at Logston. Mm-hmm. Remember that seminary?
Yep.
Yeah.
Never mind.
So another day, another podcast.
Yeah.
But then he served in Hereford as youth minister.
Oh, okay.
He began through his seminary process, began training to be a pastor. He went to I forget where it was, up in the north somewhere. Southern states, I'm pretty sure.
Southern states, but the north of the southern.
Yeah, north of here.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything
and not the Panhandle.
Okay.
So, anyways. But he's been back in Abilene for about 3 years, and he's a good friend. We, James and I get to hang out with him a good bit, and we really love him a lot. Mm-hmm. So he's excited about being here. It's his first time to get to come speak to our church.
Right.
And he's a pastor's kid, so he's used to churches a lot similar to ours through his growing up years, and it's really I'm impressed, and he keeps mentioning how honored he is to be able to come preach here. So I'm excited about it, and I know our folks enjoy that as well, and they receive people well when they come. So, anyways, we're looking forward to that. That's about all I got today, man. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
And I will see you next week after the Final Four.
After the Final Four.
And before baseball starts.
Spring training has started, yes.
Okay.
But before
I lost track.
I know.
After that big argument they had.
If James is still watching, he'll be commenting about that also.
Yes, well, anyways, thanks for letting us be a part of your week. We look forward to seeing you Sunday, whether it's live in our worship center or online.
See you then.